And I see this almost every day from Muslims who are trying to show, well, you're criticizing Islam for being violent. Look at what Jesus said. Jesus said, people who reject him, bring them there and slaughter them. And what's very strange, I see this from actually popular Muslim apologists who should know better. In other words, if the context is relevant, let's actually run through the context here just so we see what we mean, and we can apply the same standard to Islam. We will look at the context, we won't distort the meaning. So here's the context of this verse. Passage begins in verse 11 of Luke 19. While they were listening to this, Jesus went on to tell them a parable. Context is, Jesus is telling them a parable. Because he was near Jerusalem, and the people thought that the kingdom of God was going to appear at once. He said, a man of noble birth went to a distant country. So the story is about a man of noble birth. Went to a distant country to have himself appointed king, and then to return. So he called 10 of his servants and gave them 10 minas. Put this money to work, he said, until I come back. But his subjects hated him and sent a delegation after him to say, we don't want this man to be our king. He was made king, however, and returned home. Then he sent for the servants to whom he had given the money in order to find out what they had gained with it. The first one came and said, Sir, your mina has earned 10 more. Well done, my good servant, his master replied. Because you've been trustworthy in a small matter, take charge of 10 cities. Second came and said, Sir, your mina has earned 5 more. His master answered, you take charge of 5 cities. Then another servant came and said, Sir, here's your mina. I kept it laid away in a piece of cloth. I was afraid of you, because you are a hard man. You take what you did not put in and reap what you did not sow. His master replied, I will judge you by your own words, you wicked servant. You knew, did you, that I am a hard man, taking out what I did not put in, reaping what I did not sow. Why then didn't you put my money on deposit, so that when I came back, I could have collected it with interest? Then he said to those standing by, Take his mina away from him, give it to the one who has 10 minas. Sir, they said, he already has 10. He replied, I tell you that to everyone who has, more will be given, but as for the one who has nothing, even what they have will be taken away. Those enemies of mine who do not want me to be king over them, bring them here and kill them in front of me. Is this Jesus telling his followers go out and kill everyone who disagrees with him? No, it's a character in a story that Jesus is telling. I mean, think about this. If you rip things out of context this way, right? I've said kill unbelievers, 20 times since we started? Now, if you ignore the fact that I'm saying the Quran says this or Muhammad says that, you take the video, edit the video, and just say, look what David says. Kill unbelievers! Oh, look at this horrible evil dude. Well, yeah, you do need that kind of context. And so here is Jesus telling a story. It's a character in the story who says, bring them here and kill them. Now, this applies to Jesus in terms of the future judgment, but think about the story. The king goes away, he's going away, then the king comes back, and then judges the people who rebelled against him. So what would the message be? You don't judge them until the king returns. That's when the judgment happens. So the message here would be, you don't get to go out and judge people for not believing or for rejecting Jesus. Jesus will come, and according to other parables, he sends out the angels. So the message of this will be, you Christians don't get to fight and kill. But by ripping it out of context, you can give it the exact opposite meaning. So we don't ever want to do that with quotations from the Quran. As Mike pointed out, you don't have to. But there is this context defense. Surah 9:29, these verses can't mean what they say. Let's look at the context. So the passage runs from verse 28 of chapter 9 all the way to verse 33. That's the entire passage. What happens before and what happens after are not part of the same passage. Let's go through this. Because, again, we don't want to misrepresent anything. And as good Muslims, we want to obey Allah. We want to make sure that the person who's radicalizing you, the person who's telling you what you have to do as Muslims, want to make sure he's telling you the truth. So let's break through the context. Starts in verse 28, so it starts one verse earlier. O you who believe, truly the pagans are unclean. So let them not, after this year of theirs, approach the sacred mosque. And if you fear poverty, soon will Allah enrich you, if He wills, out of His bounty, for Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. So the pagans used to take the pilgrimage to Mecca, and they would spend money while they're there. So it's a source of revenue for the city, just like the pilgrimage is today in Mecca. People take the pilgrimage to Mecca, they spend a bunch of money while they're there. That's a source of revenue. But Muhammad says, you don't get to do that anymore. Revelation from Allah. The pagans are unclean. Don't let them come to the sacred mosque anymore. Well, how are we going to get money now? If you fear poverty, you fear that this is your main source of income, soon will Allah enrich you. How's Allah going to do that? Next verse. Fight those who believe not in Allah, nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and His Messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. You're going to go out and fight Christians and Jews, and they're going to pay you tribute money because they don't want to be slaughtered. That's how Allah is going to enrich you, since you're not getting money from the pagans anymore. Maybe the verse after it makes it better. 9:30. And the Jews say, Uzair, Ezra, is the son of Allah. The Christians say, the Messiah is the son of Allah. These are the words of their mouths. They imitate the saying of those who disbelieved before. May Allah destroy them how they are turned away. So notice the accusation against Christians and Jews that justifies fighting and subjugating them. Well, Christians, we say the Messiah is the son of Allah. Notice, it's about what Christian doctrine is. It's not about, oh, well, they're trying to murder you or they're trying to kill you or something like that. No, they say Jesus is the son of God. That's why it's okay to fight them. The next verse is better. 9:31. They take their priests and their anchorites to be their lords in derogation of Allah. So they do what their priests are saying instead of what Allah says. So they're obeying priests. They're obeying human. That's a form of shirk. They're obeying human beings instead of Allah. They take their priests and their anchorites to be their lords in derogation of Allah, and they take as their Lord Christ, the Son of Mary, yet they were commanded to worship but one God. There is no God but He. Praise and glory to Him. Far is He from having the partners they associate with Him. They've committed shirk. So far, nothing is changing the meaning of this passage. Let's keep going. Fain would they extinguish Allah's light with their mouths. It's about what we say. Notice, we say Jesus is the Son of God. They're trying to extinguish Allah's light with their mouths, but Allah will not allow, but that His light should be perfected, even though the unbelievers may detest it, even though the unbelievers hate it. Well, He's going to stop them anyway. 9:33, it is He who hath sent His messenger with guidance and the religion of truth to prevail it over all religion, even though the pagans may detest it. How's Allah going to prevail His religion over all others? Well, He's going to silence their mouths, keep them from saying Jesus is the Son of God. How is He going to do that? You're going to go out and fight them and subjugate them until they pay you money. And then you control them, and then you tell them what they can and cannot say. That's the entire passage. Anything in the context make this peaceful. Anything. We all just read that's the entire context of the passage. Anything, one word in there, has anything to do with people attacking you, people fighting you. Every single reason for fighting in the entire context is what you believe, what you say. That's it. That's the context. So when someone tells you, oh, you're not reading in context, sorry, I read the context. There's a different kind of context. That's the literary context. That's the reading what came before and what came after. There's a different kind of context. That's the historical context. And people from other religions would believe that this is relevant as well. I've never obeyed Paul's command to greet one another with a holy kiss. Why? It was common back then. It has a different meaning in America. Like it's still common in parts of Europe. I went over to France and people kept trying to kiss me. I'm from the Bronx, man. What are you getting away from me? So anyway, so it has a different cultural relevance now. We would accept that. But let's look, just in case Muslims want to say, but there is something in the historical context that changes the meaning of this, and it's actually perfectly peaceful and tolerant and just completely in line with the Bill of Rights. If you just knew the historical context. Well, I do. Here it is. This is from Ibn Kathir. It's not his commentary. This is his Sirah work. This is a book he wrote on the history of Muhammad. Here we have the historical background of this verse. Allah, Most High, ordered the believers to prohibit the disbelievers from entering or coming near the sacred mosque. Remember, he said, you're unclean. The pagans are unclean. Don't let them come anymore. On that, the Quraysh, this is Muhammad's tribe, they were forced to convert to Islam. Well, they could have left. He actually gave them a period of waiting. This is chapter 9, verse 5. You've got a certain number of months. You wait till the holy months are over. After that, you better run because we're going to kill you if after that time you are still a pagan in our land. So the Quraysh that stayed, they had to convert to Islam. The Quraysh thought that this would reduce their profits from trade. Of course it would. Pagans aren't allowed to come take the pilgrimage anymore. And so this is going to reduce their profits. Therefore, We're wondering where we're going to get money. Therefore, Allah Most High compensated them and ordered them to fight the people of the book until they embrace Islam or pay the jizya. Notice, embrace Islam or pay the jizya. If they embrace Islam, they pay zakat. You fill your pockets. If they refuse to convert and they want to remain Christians and Jews, they still have to pay. They have to pay jizya. Either way, by going out and fighting, you're getting money. You're going to get revenue. That is how Allah is going to enrich you. So, and then Ibn Kathir quotes the passage. Allah says, "O you who believe, truly the pagans are unclean, so let them not, after this year of theirs, approach the sacred mosque. And if you fear poverty, soon will Allah enrich you, if He wills, out of His bounty, for Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. Fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, or hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and His messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Therefore, the messenger of Allah decided to fight the Romans in order to call them to Islam." How did Muhammad interpret this passage that must somehow, in context, be peaceful? I'm going to go start a war in order to subjugate them and make them pay me money. And what's hilarious is you can quote this to a Muslim. You can quote all of this. You can quote the entire context of the passage. You can quote the historical background. It just can't mean that. That would mean that Allah is a kind of a robber, that He goes out and He forces people to pay Him protection money or something like that. What prophet are you talking about if you have a problem with that? Let's look. Sahih al-Bukhari, the opening, the sort of heading for chapter 88 of Sahih al-Bukhari, the prophet said, "My livelihood is under the shade of my spear. He who disobeys my orders will be humiliated by paying jizya." According to Muhammad, what's your source of your livelihood? Fighting, and you disobey him, you're going to pay the jizya. So, think about this. How are you guys going to make your money as Muslims? Going to go get a job, go to school, and go work all your life? Who's the pattern of conduct here? Who's the pattern of conduct that Muslims are supposed to follow? I thought it was Muhammad. And he said his livelihood is under the shade of his spear. He makes money. He makes other people work for him. He makes other people pay him. So what is there anywhere in the context that would change anything of the meaning of 929? It's worse. I mean, it's actually worse when you look at it in context. So this is what we find, and the only other thing you can say here is, well, we'll look at some other verses of the Quran that say nicer things. Now, Surah 2:256, there's no compulsion in religion. That means ISIS is doing all wrong because they're compelling people. They have forced conversions and stuff over there. So who cares that Muhammad said, been commanded to fight people until they say there's no God but Allah? That couldn't be true because it says right here there's no compulsion in religion. Right? Chapter 109, so sort of towards the end of 109, you have your religion, I shall have my religion. We have a disagreement over our religion. Hey, to you be your religion and to me be my religion. That's peaceful. Chapter 8, verse 61. But if the enemy inclines towards peace, you also incline toward peace. The unbelievers want peace with you? Live in peace with them. Wait a minute, I thought it said, don't seek peace. Be not weary and faint-hearted, crying for peace when you should be uppermost. What's going on here? I thought Allah's word is perfectly clear. He's saying, fight the unbelievers over here, fight the unbelievers and the hypocrites. Oh, there's no compulsion in religion. What's going on in his perfectly clear word? Well, he tells us. He tells us exactly what it is. Chapter 16, verse 101. And when we change one communication for another communication, and Allah knows best what He reveals, they say, you're only a forger. Nay, most of them do not know. Think about this. This is the Quran responding to unbelievers saying, why does Muhammad keep changing these revelations he's getting? He gets a revelation telling them one thing to do, and then he gets another revelation later saying something completely different. This guy's making this up as he goes along. He's a forger. And Allah admits this in the Quran. Not that Allah doesn't admit that he's forging, but He admits that Muhammad is being accused of changing his revelations. So the revelations are changing. Chapter 2, verse 106. Whatever communications we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, we bring one better than it or like it. Do you not know that Allah has power over all things?